Welcome to Éxito in Minutes. I'm here with
Alex Espinosa,
my co-host, and I'm Troy Blanchard. Thanks for joining us today. We're super excited. Éxito in Minutes is all focused about how in minutes we can learn the best practices, valuable tips to help you achieve your full potential. We're inviting experts to come in and they're going to share inspirational stories. Our main purpose is when you're concluding listening to these podcasts that you will be a better person and take some of those best practices, learn not just from us, but from our guests. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Éxito in Minutes, and thank you for joining us again. We are so excited for today's podcast, but first, co-host
Alex Espinosa.
And I'm Daphne Blanchard, hello.
And I'm Andy Thunell, hey there.
We are super excited that Andy's here from Utah State University. If you listen to the last podcast, you'll hear all about the Center of Entrepreneurship and also the SEED program. So thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
We have some questions.
Yes, we do. So We're really excited about this SEED program, what you call SEED program, which is an entrepreneurship program. My question is with you being in nearly 8 countries,
yes,
you have all this experience with all these different entrepreneurs and mentoring them. What would you say are some of the best practices or the keys to success? What do they need to take it to the finish line and have a successful company?
That's a good question, a great question, especially for somebody considering if they have what it takes to launch a business, right? I think it kind of boils down to 3 Ps that we talk about with the people. And so you're right, like within those countries where we operate, I feel like even though different countries, cultures, different people, the things that they're doing are so similar. And so the first thing that we talk about when we teach group classes of people that want to start a business or those that have them, they've got to have a purpose behind what they're doing, right? The number one thing is the purpose. What's the driving factor or the motivation behind them doing what they're doing? And so for a lot of these like solopreneurs or micro enterprises that we're working with, a lot of that motivation might be their family, right? Like they want to like make money to help provide a better livelihood and then also help like educate their children and put them through school, right? And then on top of that, so if they have that strong purpose, right, they've got to have passion for what they do. They've got to like what they've launched, like the business. And then the third thing we talk about is perseverance, because we all know as entrepreneurs that things don't go as planned, right? And so as things are hard, right, and things surface that, you know, they might want to throw in the towel and give up, they've got to revisit that purpose, right? Why are they doing this, right, to motivate them and that passion to keep on moving them forward.
I love that because actually on this podcast, I think they've talked about our why. We've had that discussion a few times, and that is really grounding and motivating. Can you give us an example of when somebody had to persevere, as you said, maybe an example of one of the entrepreneurs that you've worked with in the past and how this person pushed through maybe some obstacles that came their way?
Gosh, so many examples come to mind. There's one in particular. There's a woman that we worked with in Mexico named Marta. Marta is a divorced mother of 2, right? And so her purpose behind what she does and what she wanted to do with her life is providing for her two daughters and to put them through school because they have aspirations just as she does, right? So being a mother that's like divorced and she's on her own, that was the purpose behind that. And so she just kind of visited, what was she passionate about? She loves cooking, right? I think all of us can appreciate, Mexican cuisine. She makes the most fantastic empanadas. And so she thought, I can launch this business and hopefully make money. It was difficult, right? She started doing that. Our interns were working with her. Another partner program in Mexico that we're partnered up with was helping her out. And so, obviously it takes time, right? And if you expect it's going to be successful from the beginning, right, you got to change that mindset and know that you got to have perseverance because there's going to be things that come about. And that's what happened with Marta. She tried to figure out how to pivot around. Was she selling to the right audience? Was the right food? Her menu correct? What about her prices? And so as these difficult times were presenting themselves, she would always revisit that purpose behind what she's doing, that passion, right? And then finally just persevering, making it happen. So. Great. And so she's been, wildly successful. I say that's perseverance. Great. She, had a great company that she started making empanadas. She supplemented that, with using money from her business to start another company. And she was actually selling widgets and gadgets different electronic devices. Okay. Unrelated to that. But she found out she was making more money, higher margins on those products. So she actually sold off the empanada business, used that cash to invest in what she's doing now. And it's less time intensive. And so if she would have, thrown in the towel when it was difficult with the empanadas, she'd never have arrived where she's at now. Oh, I love that story. Isn't
that something you've learned in your training about a lot of companies come from maybe pivoting from their original idea?
Yeah, I remember being in class. I'm at the university, and as I'm sitting there, they got up and they talked about that 90, and at the time, these stats might have changed, but at the time, it was 90% of companies, the new companies that have spawned is in Camino. It's in the process of like empanadas. You're working on empanadas, and there's a new opportunity that arises from that. I probably could say it more eloquently than that, Andy. But the takeaway here is stick with what you're doing. If you're trying to ideate, come up with a new company, a lot of times that comes from what you're doing. You're finding the pain points. You're finding what's missing in that company. You're finding how things can be improved, what processes, what software, what services you need. And then once you focus in on those areas, then you can start ideating and build a business plan out of it. And so even though you might be doing something you don't absolutely love, in that process, you might find something that you love doing that's just a slight offshoot from it.
Can I add one thing to that? I think it's just important to just start. That's what we tell the entrepreneurs that we work with in this program. It's like, you just start, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking like, I got to come up with the best idea that's going to generate the most income for my family. I mean, if we all had that answer right away, we'd all be launching the best companies, right?
Yeah.
You think I got to start and then pivot around and figure out what makes the most sense and where, the most traction can be gained.
I think that was the most uncomfortable part for being an entrepreneur for me, but also the best lesson that I learned was I don't need to be an expert. I can just get moving and then bring people into your orbit that help you and that have skills maybe that you don't have, but that's been really helpful. What do you think?
You know what I'm thinking right now, what is in the top of my mind is the market research. Because it's like you need to know your audience, you need to know your competitors and stuff like that. And that might be overwhelming for an entrepreneur because it's like, I don't have the cash to spend for a service like that. So there are many easy ways that you can do it by yourself and you can find out that information. I remember when I tried to create a startup, and I was like, I went to my competitors, and I just went there to the store and started. Okay, they started like they have one invoice, 2, 3, and many people enter. And I was registering all that information, so that was my market research. It was easy for me to understand what my competitors were doing. So I was trying to find better ways to do it, to be better than they were. So it is amazing to understand that it's not something that you need to worry right now, the money. Because it's like, how can I will pay for those services? And even if I'm doing empanadas. So that's what I'm thinking right now. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, one of the things too that comes to mind is like, besides the 3 Ps that we're talking about, is like, a lot of people have to have this belief in themselves, right? There's self-limiting belief that they have that they can do it. And that's the reason why like we push them to just start now. Because if they can gain like a little bit of traction by being like successful on a small level, and we're giving them continued like mentorship, then that's going to build them up and they're going to become a better entrepreneur and they're going to grow their business. And then it's a cycle. And then they're going to give back to those people that were in that position, not believing in themselves.
That's something we talk about a lot actually is, well, one, the idea of just Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. Sometimes it's just being in it for a certain number of hours, you get better at it. And something we've said a lot is like, if you hang out in the dairy long enough, you're going to get milk. And so in entrepreneurship for us, it's like, stay in it. And we always talk about it being 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and just accepting that.
4 steps back.
As sometimes it's 4 steps back, and sometimes you get 5 steps forward. And if you can accept that rhythm and realize that the process or the company's not broken if something goes wrong, you just need to now pivot or find a solution.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I just think that we sometimes view entrepreneurs that have successful companies. They've arrived like on the top of the mountain, the so-called mountain, right? Like on the cusp here, and we don't know what the journey looked like, right? It wasn't a direct, straight up route. Like they had to pivot around to get there. So understanding it goes that direction.
Like our favorite phrase from Farm Girl Flower, she said, "I was an overnight success." After a decade.
Yes.
A decade of grinding.
And that's been really motivational for me.
It's awesome. So the one thing that I want to say is why go at it alone, right? As an entrepreneur, that's why our program exists. We're excited to launch here in September with students from Utah State. It's a completely free program. We want to help mentor people that have the desire to start businesses, those that have businesses to become better and, to succeed.
Yes.
So
bring people around you to help you on that process. That's key.
Andy, thanks for being here with us. We really appreciate it. This has been a fantastic episode. What we'd ask is a summary, and if you think of anything else, go ahead and add it.
Yeah, I think, when people are starting businesses or in the thick of like just running a business, it's important to really remember those 3 Ps we talked about, right? The first being a strong sense of purpose, right? What's the why behind what you're doing, right? And then the passion, you got to be passionate about what you're doing, because as you wake up in the morning, you got to be excited about what you're actually trying to achieve with your business and what you're operating in. And the third thing is the perseverance, because things are tough at times as an entrepreneur. And so you got to make sure that you have the perseverance and, go with the ebbs and flows and the highs and lows. But I would just one final thing though.
Yeah.
Apart from those 3 Ps, the most important thing is actually just to start and believe in yourself, right? Those other things come, but self-belief and actually starting is one of the most important things that I've found in the working with the people all over the world that we work with.
Yeah, you know what, that is important. And there's a quote that I would love to read to you. And this is from Debbie Fields. She is the founder of Mr. Fields Cookies. And she said something really important about that. She said, the important thing is not being afraid to take a chance. Remember, the greatest failure is to not try. Once you find something you love to do, be the best at doing it.
I love that.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a perfect ending. Thank you. Thanks for being here with us. We appreciate you listening. Catch if you didn't hear the previous, you're going to want to hear the previous episode. All right. Thanks for joining us again, Andy.
Appreciate it. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See ya.